Welcome to the Warrior Mindset Podcast. We are your guide as you make your way through life, getting better 1% every day. We believe that life is lived and true victory won through adversity. Nothing easy is ever worth it. We believe in the warrior ethos and support those that choose to walk that path.
What is up? You're on.
Oh, okay. I thought you were doing this, the traditional. How's everybody doing? I thought you were doing that thing.
Yeah, a little bit. Welcome to the show again.
Thank you, Gene.
Got Sherard here with us again. He's been on the Warrior Mindset before and another show, and I love talking to you.
Oh man, yeah, I love talking to you too, Gene. You're a very bright, warm.
Oh goodness,
human being. Those are the good ones, man. We need more use in the world. We do.
I appreciate it. Likewise.
Yeah.
Likewise,
Thank
man.
you.
Well, I wish we would have recorded most of what we said earlier because that was a good convo. But
it was. But I need to vent a little
good.
bit. Yeah.
But so I mean, you're sort of like, when I think of you, I think of, the digital literacy, the media literacy, thinking about the direction. And what's weird is we've had a few conversations and I kind of think through things through the Sherard lens.
Well, okay.
No, I'm just like, we've had a couple discussions and it's always like when I see something in the media, whatever flavor or format it's in, I always think like, what are you trying to say?
Exactly.
So thank you.
Well,
thank you.
Well, thank you.
It's like there's always a motivation behind the message.
That just shows me that it works. It's one of the things that I talk to educators around the country about, educators here locally about, even legislators about, is media literacy education works, even if you're just teaching the basics. And, that is proof that if you can help train people, that there's information that they retain that will help them. I mean, what you're talking about is no different than when you were taught context clues. That's all you're looking for. It's just that you're looking for context clues in media as opposed to just print media. And when I say media, I mean the moving image or
everything
or images,
right.
And looking at it through that lens as opposed to just looking at it through the lenses we were taught in fifth grade or in college or in high school. And it just proves to me that it's effective and it works. And so if regular Joes, you're not a, you know what I mean? You're not a media literacy scholar.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
You're not a PhD expert on education literacy, and if you can go, what is that trying to say to me? Just, that just shows to me that, with, the media literacy educators that are pushing for this to be mainstream are right. And it's a skill that we have to have. We're behind the eight ball.
It's scary.
Society. It's incredibly scary. It's not slowing down.
Well, so the flip side of that, how easy it is to begin to push a message, or how easy it is to push your opinions into the world, and how easy it is for that to just catch fire and go.
That's right.
And I wanted to talk to you through some of that.
Sure.
This there seems to be a proliferation. It's hard to say that word and sound intelligent. It's like the word rural. The proliferation of critics online. Like let's take YouTube, TikTok.
Oh my gosh. Instagram.
Wherever there's a video or I mean, I'm one, I guess.
Twitter.
I mean, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's just so much bullshit.
Yeah.
It seems like if you have an opinion and you can put it in a well-edited video, then it's like you're as believable as Walter Cronkite.
That's right.
It just like, what's your take on how we got there from those days of, say, because Walter Cronkite, I mean, it's a little bit before my time.
Right. Mine too.
Like the Dan Rather.
There we go. Dan Rather, Tom Brokaw.
When they said it, it was like, cool, that's how the world is.
That's right.
You know what I mean? But it went from that to some schmo bitching about the latest, World of Warcraft patch,
Right.
and he can now have social commentary.
That's right. And a collection of those people can actually move major decisions, even though they're not experts, or they haven't been vetted by any particular system of note. And then they could have major implications on major decisions just because it's a group of those people together. You make enough noise, and suddenly big decisions are made because of that. And so, history is always our best teacher. And I talked about this a little bit when last time I was on, about Gutenberg and the printing press,
right?
And how that created the same system that we have right now. The difference between what happened with the printing press and how you could just print whatever, like I could say,
Right.
Thomas Jefferson is a hermaphrodite printing in the paper. People go, "Oh my God, did you hear
shit.
the news?" You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they would believe it.
Right.
The difference between then and now is speed and coverage, right? So then,
I guess the internet is a lot bigger than a local paper.
A lot bigger than a local paper, So instead of
Yeah.
just a local barbershop in your town, the city talking about it, this shot can be heard around the world, instantly. Anybody can find it, particularly if you're talking about, something like TikTok or YouTube. I mean,
right.
That's the purpose of mass media. It's designed to go to the masses. And so the speed and breadth of something is what the difference is now. And so just like then, the barriers, the boundaries have been broken down, right? You take someone like a Tom Brokaw, Dan Rather, even Walter Cronkite. You had to go through a process to be a journalist. You couldn't just open up a mic and be a journalist, right? Which is what's happening now. Like anyone can. I was just thinking about this morning. I love the Drink Champ show, and I was like, man, the show is changing though, because one of the hosts on the show, Noriega, the rapper, is turning into a journalist, but he's not a journalist. He doesn't understand a lot of the rules. Right. And I don't like that about the show, because it's changed from just conversation to him like kind of behaving more like a journalist. And
those are the patterns that he knows.
Right. Those are the patterns that he knows, but he hasn't done any of the right. He hasn't gone through the school of journalism and all those things that Walter Cronkite had to do and Dan Rather had to do. Even in those situations, you take someone like, let's take Dan Rather, for instance. Not only did he go to school for it, but think about how early he started training.
Oh, right.
This is a guy that
they do kind of come up through the ranks.
They come up through the ranks locally to regionally to nationally.
Even our local boy, Craig Melvin.
He went from way.
doing the weather to.
I mean, he actually was on WIS in high school, so his training when it comes to journalism. He that's how he started at WIS. It was a high school thing that he ended up doing, and then kind of continued from there. And I know that because we graduated high school together, class of '96, Columbia High School. What up, Craig? Buddy of mine. So everyone has an opinion, and everyone has an ability to get that opinion out with the flick of a finger. Right? You don't even have to. I mean, bro. You can get a cell phone or a device nowadays is already set up for you. All you gotta do is press one button and it'll do everything for you.
All you need is an iPhone.
Live.
Yep.
It can send it wherever you want to send it with another click of a button.
Right in iTunes. Yeah.
Yeah. And you so it's created this democracy of proliferation of information in a space that is like the Wild Wild West, where there's no boundaries. You know what I mean?
It is the Wild West.
And so that's how we got there. And it's one of the things that we're gonna have to learn to create boundaries for. I mean, it can't continue like this. I just don't think it's sustainable, because it's a problem now, but how much of the world is connected?
We all are. Absolutely.
But not everybody. You know what I mean? Like,
oh, sure. Yep.
It's not, there are places in rural South Carolina that aren't connected.
Absolutely.
What I mean?
Yep.
But in a few years they will be. So it's like, how much exponentially are we going to let these things happen? Because right
Shit.
now it's,
Didn't
think
about
about
that.
it. I mean, that's just the whole, this dynamic that we're talking about is the very reason why you have a QAnon or you have a flat earth world conference, right?
Right.
Because these fringe ideas are able to find communities. So and that's because of exponential growth, right? The more people, the more the percentages of those people that have fringe ideas rise. So I feel like we're just seeing the first level. You know what I mean?
I think so.
Like,
I think you're right.
there's going to be a deeper level, because the
think
more
you're
people
right.
get connected, the
Yep.
more people have access. It's no different than you take a city like Columbia, and people will say, well, how come we don't get more major artists, right, in a city like Columbia? That's because the amount of, take Bruno Mars fans in South Carolina, or rather I should say Columbia, versus the amount of Bruno Mars fans in Las Vegas is like
probably different.
10-1. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right? So in Las Vegas, let's take Atlanta proper, right?
Right.
I think Atlanta has something like 4.1 million people downtown Atlanta.
It's big, yeah.
Right? You barely got 1 million people in South Carolina.
Right.
Right? So the number of Bruno Mars fans in downtown Atlanta is going to quadruple the number. So
Right.
it just makes
Just
more
numbers
financial.
alone.
It's a numbers game. So it's the same way when it comes to fringe ideas, right? So, there might be 2 flat earthers in South Carolina, but there may be 4 in North Carolina, 6 in London, 8. You see what I'm saying? And then they start finding each other. Now you have this community. And so my concern, which is why I think boundaries are going to have to come eventually, is what's the next level of fringe? Because as those communities grow, there's going to be another community smaller than that now that is also going to begin to grow. The more people that get connected, I'm sure there's a scientific law term for this phenomenon that we're talking about. But it's a numbers game, you know what I mean? And so it is something that is very difficult to go through in this growing pain time of society when we're talking about the internet and connectivity. And it's one of the growing pains of the tech age that we're living in right now, is a proliferation of critics that will critique anything at any given time, at any given moment, without any formal education, without any background, without any vetting, without any even real platform. You know what I mean?
Are you familiar with Lord of the Rings, the new Lord of the Rings show, Rings of Power?
I am. I haven't seen it yet, but I am familiar with it.
Are you familiar with all the media that's been happening around it?
I am not. Give me the skinny.
So it leads to a whole point, but so essentially this series, Rings of Power, critics, and I don't even know if I should, like, people on the internet.
Are they critics?
I don't know.
Or are they just people on Twitter?
I'm not sure what the difference is anymore. To our point, but
to our point, yeah.
They started sort of crapping on this thing before it even came out.
Of course,
right. There's a couple of points here that might be interesting to get into. One is the fact that it's a Lord of the Rings, which is J.R.R. Tolkien. It's an old English white dude, and they put people of color in it.
That's already
right. So whatever. Yeah. That's one of the things, but they sort of, started smacking this thing down for being too woke or whatever before it was even out.
Right. Of course.
Then it came out, and they doubled down on it.
Of course.
It's a terrible show.
Yeah.
But it just seems like it was like copycats, like putting it out there. And then now you're starting to see lots of positive reviews of it.
Yeah.
And so now there's like the counterculture that's saying like, well, that's Amazon paying for positive reviews, trying to change the tide of this thing.
It's the endless, I call it the idiot loop. I mean, it just is what it is. I don't say that to be mean, but I say that to be direct.
Yeah.
It's an idiot loop, because the idiot loop is designed for people that are not willing to think. Right? Because thinking, you have to have a willingness to go, well, let me think about that.
Mm-hmm.
That's something you have to be willing to do. And the idiot loop prevents that, because if I back down and you're right and I'm wrong, then what does that mean for me?
Oh, right. You see that in politics a lot.
You see that in politics all the time, right? So, it's an idiot loop. And the reason why I call it an idiot loop specifically is because the inability of the willingness, rather I should say, the unwillingness to think, because that's really all it requires, is to take some 2 seconds and go, wait a minute, tell me more about that. Can you help me understand? Right. And this is something we talked about before, like this, the age of, I'm reading this book by Thomas Friedman. I've actually read it before. I'm reading it again. It's called late. Thank you for being late. There we go.
I've heard that. I've heard of that book.
Thomas Friedman. And the subtitle is about the age of accelerations, which is what he is writing to prove that we're in, which I believe that he's 100% correct. In the age of accelerations, everything is about speed. So it's not about thinking, because thinking slows speed down.
Sure.
It's about speed. And so the age of accelerations promotes the idiot loop. It's the reason why idiot loops spin out of control, because idiot loops have great taglines. They make for great headlines.
Right.
They make for great moments.
In the research,
you see this person say,
exactly.
"Oh, he slammed. Oh, do you see him dunk on? Oh, he just shitted on."
Well, that's
Twitter
my
is
point.
upset. You know what I mean?
Is that it goes from the actual critique or the discussion of the thing to the entertainment is now the back and forth loop. Right. I saw there was another dude that, and I don't remember his name. I have to look him up, but he's a retired Hollywood showrunner, producer. And he does a review of review culture, basically.
Wow.
But his whole message is like, hey, you guys don't understand that the new entertainment is y'all watching people talk about the entertainment.
Yeah.
And that blew wild. That really blew my mind.
Yeah. I mean,
like, I don't know, my brain, I can't handle it.
It's just like almost everything else in the age of accelerations. I'm gonna stick with that throughout the time of this
it's good
talk, because I feel like it works. I feel like it's appropriate, but that is going to continue through the age of accelerations, because you have new ecosystems that come about that's one of them, review culture. And that, that goes as far as people that watch people playing games, right? All the way over to people watching people talk about reviews of reviews of reviews. I'm going to talk about an interview in an interview about an interview about an interview.
And now we're talking about that. So this is super meta.
But that's super meta. And it's a new ecosystem, but at the same time, I think it really goes back to an old human trait. And that old human trait is it's easier to tear down than it is to build up. It's faster. Works perfectly for the age of accelerations, because the age of accelerations is a beast that wants to continue to be fed, right? So the more we can feed it and the faster we can feed it, the faster I can spit it out to you. That's the reason why whenever there's a major issue, like what's happening right now with the Lord of the Rings, the new
I don't know how major it is in the world, but a lot of people are watching it.
But say for instance, you follow that, and I think by now you have an idea of how algorithms work, right? So if you're a fan of something, your feed is going to be proliferated by that thing that you're into. So if someone starts talking about one of the talking points that people are talking about the power of the ring in your ecosystem, you're going to see that idea multiply through your feed, because that is going to spread so much faster, because it's not only is it easier, the sound bites are quicker, and the beast wants more of it. So it's like, this person's talking bad, but this person, did you see what this person said? Did you see what this, as opposed to someone slowing that down and saying, let's think. That's too slow for the age
Yeah.
of acceleration. It wants to give you more of
Makes
what you
sense.
said you like. And so then what do you do if you're on the business end? Right? You got a podcast.
Oh, you're
you
gaming
want to
that.
you have to game it,
Yeah.
right? Because you want your what we use the term engagement, right? You want your engagement to be included, which is the reason why we use hashtags.
That's right.
It's like I'm hashtagging
Yep.
because I want to be included in this engagement and watch what I say. Watch the shit that I say. I'm to the point where you'll even see people go as far as to like I'm sure you've seen this. Like people will go as far as to go to extreme levels to be included in the bad conversation.
Oh, right.
Right.
Oh, absolutely.
Sometimes people will dress up.
Or
Sometimes
they'll
they'll just
really
be like, fuck, he's a cunt. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Well, however far I can go so that when
Just
that
to
loop
watch.
starts, I can be involved in that loop too.
Yep.
And so so then the question becomes like, so what do we do? Right. And I think that there's two answers to that question. On one hand, we have the people that are responsible for internet regulations and are having conversations with the people that are responsible for internet regulations and social media regulations, including the companies, have to do their part in being able to control that. I mean, it's one of the reasons why I'm sure you heard about the Kia Optima thing, where all these Kia Optimas are getting stolen because of TikTok.
Oh, right.
Like that's TikTok has got, on one hand, TikTok and the people that are regulating have to go in and go, all right,
yeah, stop selling.
Let's cut this traffic down, right? Which to some people will be an invasion of freedom, but you have to, where's the line, right? Because if I'm breaking and entering, sooner or later somebody's got to say breaking and entering is wrong. Right?
It's like the freedom of speech thing. You can say what you want, but you can't yell fire in a crowded theater.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like there has to be a line.
Yeah.
That's one. And at the same time, people like me, Renee Hobbs, Frank Baker, all these people around the world that are working on media literacy education have to continue to push for literacy education so that people can train themselves not to fall victim to the loop, because that's what ends up happening, right?
Yeah, right.
The ecosystem is designed, and when I say ecosystem, I specifically mean the way that your social media feed works. It's designed for you to trap you in a loop.
Right.
This is the reason why I love that movie.
It's entertainment.
It was a Netflix movie about the way social media works. I can't remember the name of it right now. It sucks because I talk about it all the time. But there's a Netflix movie about the way social media works. I'm the
same way. I can't remember
and
the name
they
of
have
it.
this wonderful example of how the loop works, where it's these three guys at a computer and they're feeding information to this guy, and they're like, oh, he likes this. Make sure you put that in. Oh, he said no, we'll throw him this. That's exactly how the loop works.
The social dilemma.
So the social dilemma, that's the name of it. Yeah. Thank you. And it do a great example of showing how the ecosystem is designed to trap you in a loop.
Yeah.
So how do humans fight against that? Is by having the tools in your mind. Your mind has to be trained to look at the loop and go, oh, this is bullshit. Right. Swipe.
They put me here.
You know what I mean? As opposed to staying in the loop, because that's what ends up happening. And we all do it. I don't care how. Even me, I'm a media literacy educator. I get lost in a loop. You know what I mean?
Oh, it's more things that I
like.
like.
More things that I like. Oh, I watched it, and then I watched this part of it, and then I watched this person talk about it, and then I watched it. Like I remember
it's 2 a.m. What have I been doing?
That's what happened when the Black Panther trailer came out. I mean, I must have been in the Black Panther trailer loop for like an hour and a half. Like I watched the trailer and then watched the trailer again. And then I watched the entrance at Comic-Con. Then I watched the interviews at Comic-Con, and then I watched the reviews of the interviews. Like I got trapped in a Black Panther loop.
My theory, by the way, is Killmonger is the new Black Panther.
I think it's gonna be Shuri.
Oh, okay, we'll see.
I think it should be Shuri. I think it would be awesome if it was Killmonger. I think that'd be an interesting dynamic. I mean, all of the technology to make that happen is in Wakanda. You know, so I could certainly see it, but I think
I'll be happy either way.
I'll be happy either way. Yeah, that's how I'm in it. I'll be happy either way. But yeah, so you know, we end up in that loop, and so the system is designed to put us in loop. And so the two things is the people that are responsible for regulations have to create new regulations, and they have to be able to do it at the speed of technology, at the speed of accelerations, and then people like us. Media literacy educators have to continue to make a ton of noise and lean on the legislatures and lean on the school systems to put training in place so that people can have tools to use when they're to break themselves out. Because you can't just say, I get so frustrated when I listen to podcasts and I listen to educators, or even a lot of times media literacy educators, when one of the tools they have or they ask people to do is they go, just turn it off. Right. They go, just don't go.
That's not
unplug. Right. That is the worst defense. That's like saying run.
Yeah. Oh, you need to lose weight? Eat less food.
Right.
Like, no shit.
You got somebody trying to fight you? Run.
Yeah.
Like how you just gonna keep running?
It's
like forever? Work. It's not gonna work.
No.
Like either they're gonna catch you or you're gonna get tired. Like what are you gonna do if they catch you? And it's like it's just the short. It's such a short. It's the equivalent of teaching abstinence. Like I think teaching abstinence is wonderful. However, we can't ignore the fact
one of
that
the 500 things that we teach.
It's one of the 500 things. The teenagers are going to be horny. We've known this as a fact for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds.
And you yourself, sir, were a teenager.
Sir, we're a horny teenager too. So the question isn't, the answer isn't run. The answer is defend. Right? Which, you know this well because of what you do with martial arts training. The answer isn't run. The answer is, how do you defend yourself? You have to train yourself. You know? Because if you train yourself, then you understand what to do when you're in a situation where you're up against whatever that opposition is. And in this sense, we're talking about social media loops. And
thank you for making the case that media literacy is a form of self-defense. Because I think it is.
It is. It's absolutely self-defense.
I think it is.
And
well, you can have real world repercussions from some of the dumb shit that you say or do.
It reminds me of I remember when the FBI raided Mar-a-Lago, and there was a guy in Cincinnati, Ohio, that drove his Jeep or truck or whatever he was driving, his vehicle, to the FBI offices in Cincinnati with a gun to try to run in. And I was thinking to myself, wow, look at the power of these loops.
Like, I would like to experience the channel of Facebook or whatever that I want to see it.
No, I don't know.
No, I don't want to. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, just from a forensic, like philosophical study. Like, I want to see it. I don't want to experience it.
There's a lot of those studies happening right now, which is so great. There's a lot of organizations around the world right now that are doing those studies right there, that are examining. But that's how those ecosystems work, and how and what they're already seeing is how those two things I'm talking about, regulations, whether that's companies or government, are too slow.
Right.
And human beings aren't able to defend themselves.
Right.
Which is the perfect storm for what happened with what's going on with Rings of Power. It's the perfect storm. And then what ends up happening is, unfortunately, we don't have a lot of, this reminds me of when we talked about Dave Chappelle and The Closer. In that situation, Netflix was able to be nimble enough to not only stand their ground, but be able to create opportunities, resources, boundaries, all while holding their ground. So it was a very nimble move that they made during that time that a lot of companies aren't smart enough to do, aren't forward thinking enough to do. And
you'd hope a media company would be smart enough.
You know, a lot of these media companies are run by DVDs. They're run by companies that still have a lot of old thinkers at the top. Kind of like, reminds me of President Biden in a way. This is not shitting on Biden by any means, but a lot of the times his approaches to things, or his team's approaches to things, are just too slow in the world of acceleration. So you have to have a more nimble approach to how you deal with things. And that's what Netflix was able to do, as opposed to what some people do and we've seen this happen. Some media organizations just takes the show off the air. Right. They just cancel it.
Like,
and
it's easier.
Like, you didn't have to go that far. But they're like, we weren't smart enough and forward thinking enough to be nimble. So we just canceled it, or we just changed the actors.
What do you think about school districts or whatever banning books? Do you think that's sort of like what you're just saying can be part of that?
I mean,
Where
it
it's
is
just
part of
easier
that.
sometimes just be
It's
like,
just
man, just take
easier.
it out of the school.
It's just easier. And
Not long term, it's easier. I think it's more detrimental long
oh, of
term
course. When I say easier, I mean, it's like I said before, it's easier to
for that
push
person in
somebody
charge.
down and
Yeah.
pull somebody up. It's
Right.
easier, right,
Yeah.
for them to do that.
Yeah.
Takes less time. However, the what I'm always frustrated about is at what cost when you take the easy route.
hmm
The cost is always so much greater because now you set a precedent, and the costs from that precedent are going to have ripple effects that are so much more detrimental than just doing things
hmm
in a smart way. And that's the part that always leaves me so disappointed when entities make decisions based on speed as opposed to saying, how can we do this in a smart way? Because man,
absolutely.
the cost is just so great, and we end up, being in such a bad place.
I think you're right about the speed. And I think it's a combination of the speed at which things move and our ability as humans to be patient.
Oh yeah.
Right. And receiving,
especially now. Right?
How far down the rabbit hole of the Johnny Depp Amber Heard thing did you go?
Not at all. I stayed away from that.
You are
hole altogether.
A better man than me.
I don't know if I'm trained. That's really all it is.
Right. It was a
I'm
huge
trained.
monumental waste of time.
Again, like one of the things you said earlier was, now when you look at stuff, you go, wait, what is it? What are y'all trying to do to me here? What are you trying to say to me? What is this for? What are you trying to teach me? And so it's like, now I do that so much faster now. So,
I bet you do.
I can just read the headline and go, oh, you're trying to get me to go. No. And so and again, I said this last time, I always think of media as Wreck-It Ralph. Well, Ralph wrecks the internet. Like I always think of media that way. It's the greatest representation of how the internet works. Like we would treat all of this information so much differently if it was in person.
Oh, absolutely.
There's no way you would have went down the Amber Heard, Johnny Depp, if some dude you walking by on the sidewalk that you didn't know was tapping you on the shoulder and go, hey man, click on this, you'd be like, I don't care.
Don't touch me. Yeah.
Don't touch me. But because it's, right there, your thumb, you go,
oh yeah.
Let me just
listen to this for a little while.
So no, I didn't.
I bring it up because I got into it. Not the inner, I can give a shit about whether he loves her or not, or whatever. But like I think forensic nature is the wrong way to look at it, because it was a legal case, but of the what the internet did.
What do you mean?
From two standpoints is what was interesting to me. From a philosophical standpoint, one is like the cancel culture nature of what happened and how, one blog post fired off this whole thing. Two, and this is more of my point with the speed and everything. And we're talking about how, a company like Facebook, and that's Mark Zuckerberg, every time he does an interview, they're like, how are you managing people seeing shit that's bad? And he's like, and to his credit, the past couple of ones, he's kind of like, I don't know. Yeah. You got any ideas? Basically, which is also bad. Tells me how fuck we are. But
yeah, he can't. Mark can't win.
Right.
It doesn't matter what he does.
But it sort of clicked with me, because I was on that bus of like, why can't they? It's Facebook. Why can't you figure this out? I know developers that work at Facebook. They're geniuses. Yeah. Why can't they figure this out? But
why?
The Johnny Depp thing, I saw people, because I watch YouTube. I say that. That sounds like an old guy thing to say, but it's true.
I watch YouTube.
I that's my medium to watch things. I'll go watch Rings of Power on Prime, or I'll watch a show on Netflix. Like you told me to go watch a comedy thing. I seeked it out and I watched it. But generally speaking, when I turn on my TV and I want to turn my brain off or whatever, I watch things on YouTube.
Yep.
Because of this Johnny Depp thing, I saw people that for the past 5 years streamed themselves playing video games. All of a sudden, watching this live feed from the Johnny Depp Amber Heard case, and they were giving commentary over it the whole time.
Yep.
There's a bunch of them, and I was just infatuated with like, what is happening
again?
And they were
see the train moving. People go,
well, they're smart enough.
I want to jump on that train.
Yeah, they're smart enough to know, well, I can monetize, my YouTube channel's monetized, which I don't fault them for it. But it was just like, and I like to think I'm smart enough to go, why do I give a shit why this, guy who plays Warcraft thinks about Johnny Depp and Amber? Like, what is wrong with me? Like, I don't care what you think. But I also kind of did, because I'm like, they're us.
Yeah, I think, well, I'm gonna say two things. One, I think it's important to say, I think one of the reasons why you cared is because you're an empath. And I think empaths,
maybe, yeah.
We're always thinking about the ramifications, right?
Mhm.
Like, why would you do that? You're gonna have a lot of, like,
Right.
come on, man, go back to playing World of Warcraft. Like, why are you
Right. I was like,
taking people? Because that's the thing that
mhm.
that's the reason why we need boundaries, because a lot of these people, they aren't thinking about the way that they're wielding power.
Right.
Right.
Because
people are looking, particularly in the internet today, you can find a leg to stand on if you're looking for one.
Oh, you can make it work.
Right.
Yeah.
And so people are looking for legs to stand on.
Mhm.
And what happens when you open up that mic and go live or whatever is now you're giving someone a leg to stand on. So you're creating echo chambers that are detrimental to the way that people think with reckless abandon.
Mhm.
And so, being an empath and looking at that and going, man, why are you doing that? So that's one part of it, right?
Yeah, definitely.
I think the other part of it is, it goes back to that speed thing. It's so much easier, and it's so simple. I mean, the ease of it is too much power, too fast, and too easy, all at the same time.
It is, and I'd read that, because he countersued her or whatever. I had read that they petitioned or whatever they had to do to get it put in that court in Virginia, because they knew it would be broadcast. Right. And so I think whoever is behind that plan, I like Johnny Depp. I don't think he's that smart, but whoever's behind that plan, they knew that, and they knew that it would be on the internet.
They knew,
and they knew people would be into it.
Oh yeah.
I think they wielded that. So therefore, the things they did during the case, like during the presentations or whatever, was to the internet. It was like for the internet, not for the jury.
Sure. I mean, that's PR. It's good PR.
It's so fascinating to watch it.
It really is.
And then all the people breaking down. Well, today she stared that way. And today we think there were people that drew where the jury was sitting, and they drew where her head was, and they were like, well, when she said this, I think she was looking at this juror, and we think this juror is this person. It was like,
I mean, we're literally living in the wild, wild west. I mean, it's absolutely the wild, wild west when it comes to the internet right now.
So crazy.
Someone has, I won't say someone, our entities have got to speed up. It's not like we don't have.
But that's my point. How do you catch it? Like, how do you even, like, not that you have an answer, maybe you do, but like, how do you begin to get your arms around that when it's like, well, this guy yesterday was talking about playing Mario Brothers and he was streaming his TV, and now he's like showing this live feed from court, and that's what I'm watching.
Yeah.
Like, how do you even begin to you have see that stuff off?
The regulations have to be in place to slow down the process. That's what happened with the printing press, right? So you couldn't just have a newspaper anymore. You had to go through a Associated Press. Like, it had to be some type of entity you went through that could verify that your actual newspaper, you could actually be printed. Something, you had to have a verifiable antenna that had certain type of legal ramifications, that have a news channel, like all of those things. You had to put barriers and boundaries in place. That didn't mean that these fringes went away. It just meant that it didn't proliferate the masses.
Had to produce it in a certain way,
right? And so, and it didn't, it slowed down the fringe, as opposed to having the fringe compete. Because the honest truth is, even if we educate the populace on media literacy, there's still going to be a large populace that isn't going to excel at that education. And so, it's a it is a function of a societal agreement that we have regulations. Like, societies have agreements, that are legal and that are spoken, meaning are written down, and unspoken. right? That are just agreements that we make as a society to live in this place together. And societies like our society is going to have to find a way to speed up those regulations. And it's going to get more ugly before it gets better. I can tell you that for sure. You know, it's going to get uglier before it gets better, because we haven't quite, you know, humans, you know how human beings are, whether we're on the whether you're talking about your child or whether you're talking about organization or company or entity, we don't like to change until we hit a major, until it's a level 4 event.
Right.
Until it's a level 4 event, we just cruise right along. And I know it's funny because we see this happen in movies all the time, but it's very, very human nature. We will let it keep going until it's a catastrophe. And then all of a sudden now we have all these major shifts that happen really, really hard. But it's the way I think that what you're talking about won't slow down until a level 4 event happens.
As long as people can still make money off of it.
Yeah.
Well, we kind of see some of that. I think like when we think about like the way Twitter handled, you know, Trump.
Yeah.
Right. They just flat out banned him.
Yeah. But look how long it took.
It took 4 years.
It was already
like bro's out. He's going out. Now you do it. Like,
I mean, it's damage.
But wherever you fall on the spectrum of loving or hating him, but like we saw a private entity basically do a thing.
Yeah.
You know,
but it was too slow.
It was really slow.
It's funny. And again, that's why I say they have to be more nimble. You have to be able to attack these things quicker, because the honest truth is, regardless of how you feel about Donald Trump, you have to put your feelings aside for a moment, and you have to deal with facts, which I know is slower in the age of accelerations, because facts take time.
Nobody wants to down.
I feel like I'm slowing down.
Read anything.
But the truth is, he's been yelling fire since he's been on Twitter. He's been yelling fire in the theater, and all this time, nothing was happening, even though we all could see it. And it was because we did the human nature thing of let's get more. It reminds me of a Don't Look Up. You know what I mean? Like, let's see. Well, I don't know. Well, let's just kind of
let's keep being happy.
And then shit,
the moon hit the planet.
Fuck, you know what I mean? It's too late then. And so it's like, I think in that case, Twitter is a perfect case. Twitter and Trump is a perfect case study to what I'm talking about when it comes to those decisions, that infrastructure to be able to stop things from, to be able to stop someone from yelling fire more than once, has to be nimbler, has to be faster, has to be more aggressive. And the truth is, it's going to piss some people off, which I think is necessary, because I think, this is such a great example, because what happened to Trump's Twitter impact, it ended up going to a smaller platform.
Oh, right. The one he made.
Right. Which is essentially what, think about it. Like you had New York Times, all these major.
Right.
Even back in the 50s and 60s.
Yeah.
What happened to the Fringe? It went to the National Enquirer.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And that you need that to happen. You need.
So we have trusted sources.
So you have trusted sources, and then you have sources that are like, all right, if you enter this, you know what you're getting into.
Right.
And I think that was the perfect way for that to happen. And I think it's what that system needs to find its way into what we're talking about when we're talking about what's happening with critics.
Yeah.
There should be a platform that rises to where mass media is, and then there should be these small fringe platforms. You have I'm sure there are a ton of QAnon platforms out there, but they're just not mainstream. And that's what needs to happen with all of these small. I mean, even what's happening right now with The Little Mermaid, all these really small entities are making all of this noise, and it's joining the noise of mass media, when that noise needs its own platform that you got to go and search and look for, as opposed to being like competing for time, because it's fringe.
Yeah, that one's so new. I haven't actually
It's
studied.
the same.
Other
It's the
than
same thing.
sounds racist to me, but
Yeah,
you know.
it's the same thing. Little Mermaid's black.
Yeah.
Why is she black?
Well, that was the thing.
It's the same. It's the same thing.
People are like, elves and dwarves aren't black. It's not. They're like, it's not realistic.
You're not even listening to what you're saying.
You're telling me that a black mermaid is not realistic.
You're telling me that a black mermaid that lives in the sea with a crab as a friend that talks and thinks is not
like, come on, bro.
realistic.
Come on, bro. Can you just listen to yourself?
Relax.
I know elves. I know elves are white in your brain.
I know they are white in your brain. I get it, and I know if there was an Asian or Latino or black or whatever one, it would just fry you. I completely understand, but you do realize he's fighting a talking tree.
Yeah.
Is the tree? Is it okay for the tree to be brown?
Trees are brown. The ones I look at all the time.
Is that okay? Yeah. So a black guy can be the tree, but not the elf.
Sometimes they're gray.
Okay, but again, thinking.
It's weird. Yeah. Yeah. Just stop and think, man.
It's too slow, and so the age of accelerations promotes and advances the idiot loop, and it's just it's lucrative. It is gets you views. It heightens your engagement.
I feel like
it's great for headlines and taglines, and so we don't have enough.
I feel like that's kind of because you're talking about trusted sources. It seems like, I mean, you turn on any kind of news media or whatever, they talk about how, and Trump. We're talking about Trump. He's the first one to say fake news.
Oh yeah,
don't trust the media, and that's a big narrative.
Oh yeah,
don't trust the media. You can't trust them.
Yeah,
they're lying. Everything they say is a lie.
Yeah, that's so old school.
It is, but they've turned those weapons back on these bigger systems, and I don't. Yeah,
but again, that's one of those things where I go.
Well, I understand that it's designed to erode confidence.
It is
by a certain, a certain direction. I get it.
Yeah, I mean, you look at every great, and it's the reason why we need media literacy. Because if you look at every great dictator, they did the same thing, right? It's such an old, like, I feel like, by now, anyone that's using that defense should come on. People should immediately go, "Come on, man!
Yeah, come on!
That's so 1942." Yeah. You know what I mean? Don't trust the media, dude. What? Yeah. Hitler? Yeah. Come on, man. Yeah. Like, let's not do that.
Yeah.
What are you?
But trust my media that I make.
Trust you want me to trust your media, and not trust the media. Right. All right, man. Come on, man. It's 2022. That's what we should be saying. Yeah. Anybody that says anything like that, fake news, we should go, all right, bro. Come on.
Yeah.
Like, it's 2022. That's all you got. Like, I can't. Like, we should treat that thinking like a Betamax.
I like that.
We should treat it like a floppy disk.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When somebody's like, it's when you say fake news or don't trust the media, it's equivalent of somebody trying to hand me a floppy disk. And I'm like, what am I do with that?
Shit don't run on my computer, bro.
Shit don't run on no computer I've even seen in the past 20 years. I don't even know.
Yeah.
That shit don't run on. I like that. What are you trying to do to me, man? That shit don't run on my computer, man. I can't do anything with that.
That's solid.
I like that.
Man, well, we've solved all the internet's problems.
We have. Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Everyone should thank us, Gene. Everyone thank
But
Gene.
you made a great point. I do want to, we'll end with that, is that media literacy, knowing where you need to know where you stand. You need to be able to see what someone is feeding you.
Yep. And
it's self-defense, man.
You need to ask why.
Yeah.
Why are you telling me this? For what reason are they saying this to me?
Yeah.
Where did they get this information from? Who is this person? Like, I think if you just ask those 3-4 basic questions every time you engage, it would just dramatically decrease the idiot loops. It really would.
Yeah.
Like, because again, people attach themselves to that train because it's moving fast and they know it works for them. But the minute it slows down, like the minute that Johnny Depp Amber Heard thing got old, they were off to something else.
Yep.
They even might have went back to doing water. Oh,
absolutely. I've seen them. Yeah.
Because it wears off. And it's like, we have to, being inside of the media literacy mind state where you're questioning things in a way where you're asking, what is this saying to me? Who's saying it to me? Why are they saying it to me? Just asking you those 3 questions puts humanity and society in a place where those idiot loops decrease faster. And we need more of that.
Goddamn right. All right, y'all. Get some self-defense.
There you go. Get you some self-defense.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Gene.
Go.
Bam.